The autumn evening settled over the small town of Pinewood like a soft blanket. Golden leaves drifted lazily from the trees, catching the fading light of the sun. The air carried a crisp chill, and the streets were quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves skittering across the pavement. In a cozy diner at the edge of town, the warm glow of neon lights spilled onto the sidewalk, inviting weary souls inside. The sign above the door read, "Charlie's Place," a name that held weight in Pinewood. It was a haven for stories, laughter, and secrets shared over steaming cups of coffee. Inside, the diner hummed with a gentle rhythm. The clink of porcelain mugs mingled with the low murmur of voices. Old wooden booths, polished by years of use, lined the walls, their cushions worn but welcoming. At the counter, Charlie Ivanov stood, wiping a glass with a slow, deliberate motion. His broad shoulders and weathered hands told of a life spent working, but his eyes, deep and thoughtful, held a quiet kindness. Charlie was Russian by blood, though Pinewood had been his home for decades. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words carried the weight of truth. Charlie's Place was more than a diner. It was where the town came to unpack their hearts. Farmers, teachers, and shopkeepers gathered here, their voices weaving tales of joy and struggle. Tonight, though, the air felt different. A tension hung over the room, like a storm cloud waiting to break. Charlie sensed it, his gaze drifting across the familiar faces. At a corner booth, 3 men sat huddled together, their voices low but sharp. They were talking about him. Charlie didn't need to hear the words to know. Their glances, quick and guarded, gave them away. Pause. The problem had started weeks ago, though Charlie hadn't known it then. A new show had come to town, not on a stage, but on the flickering screens of Pinewood's living rooms. It was called Gutfeld, a late-night program full of biting humor and bold opinions. The host, Greg Gutfeld, had a way of stirring people up, making them laugh and argue in equal measure. Pinewood loved it. At first, Charlie enjoyed the chatter it brought to the diner. Customers would recount the show's latest quips, their voices bright with amusement. But soon, the talk turned sharp. People began repeating Gutfeld's words as if they were their own, tossing out opinions they'd never dared say before. Charlie didn't mind debate. His diner had always been a place for it. But these conversations felt different. They were less about ideas and more about tearing down. And lately, the barbs had turned toward him. It started with whispers, comments about his accent, his quiet ways, his Russian roots. "Why doesn't Charlie ever take a side?" one customer had muttered. "Betty's hiding something," another had said, half joking but half serious. Charlie heard it all, though he never let on. He kept pouring coffee, kept smiling, kept listening. Tonight, the 3 men in the corner booth were at it again. Their names were Ivan Petrov, Mikhail Volkov, and Dmitry Sokolov, old friends of Charlie's, or so he thought. They'd grown up together, shared countless meals at this very diner. But now, their words carried a sting. "Charlie's too soft," Ivan said, his voice low but clear. "Always playing neutral. What's he afraid of?" Gutfeld would call him out in a second. Mikhail nodded, leaning closer. "Yeah, would they say it to his face?" "Bet they wouldn't. Bet Charlie wouldn't either." Charlie's hand paused on the glass he was wiping. The words hung in the air, heavy and cold. He felt a pang in his chest, not anger, but something deeper. Disappointment. These were men he'd known for years. Men who'd cried at his counter when life got hard. Men who'd laughed with him over late-night pie. And now, they sat there, questioning his courage, his character, as if he were a stranger. Pause. The diner grew quieter as the evening wore on. Customers trickled out, leaving only the hum of the old jukebox in the corner. Charlie moved slowly, clearing tables, his mind heavy with thought. He wasn't one for confrontation. Never had been. In Russia, as a boy, he'd learned to keep his head down, to listen rather than speak. It had kept him safe. When he came to Pinewood, he'd brought that habit with him. But tonight, something stirred. A gentle twist, like a leaf turning over in the wind. Charlie set down his rag and walked to the corner booth. The 3 men looked up, startled, their conversation halting. For a moment, no one spoke. The jukebox played a soft tune, filling the silence. Charlie's voice, when it came, was steady, his accent soft but clear. "You've been talking about me," he said. Not accusing, just stating a fact. Ivan shifted in his seat, his face flushing. Mikhail opened his mouth, then closed it. Dmitry looked away, his fingers tapping the table. "I hear you," Charlie continued, his eyes moving from one man to the next. "You wonder if I'd say things to your face. You wonder why I don't fight back. Let me tell you something. He paused, letting the words settle. I don't talk to win. I talk to understand. This place, he gestured to the diner, its warm lights and worn booths, this is for truth. Not for show. If you've got something to say it to me. I'm right here. The men were silent, their bravado gone. Charlie didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. His words carried the weight of a man who'd lived through hard winters, who'd built a life from nothing, who'd made a home for others. Ivan cleared his throat, his voice small. We didn't mean it, Charlie. It's just, the show, you know. It gets us riled up. Charlie nodded, his expression softening. I know, he said. But words matter. They build or they break. You choose. Pause. The next evening, the diner was full again. The air felt lighter, as if the storm cloud had passed. Ivan, Mikhail, and Dmitri were back, sitting at their usual booth. This time, their voices were softer, their laughter genuine. They waved Charlie over, and he joined them, a rare smile breaking across his face. They didn't talk about Gutfeld, or its sharp-edged humor. Instead, they shared stories of the old days, of fishing trips and late-night card games, of the time Pinewood rallied to rebuild the school after a fire.